My name is John Pasfield. The title of this reading will be John and Dickens, Video 8, the final chapter. Here is my novella. I'll hold up the cover here. There, I think you can get a clear picture of the drawing. John and Dickens, A Christmas Mystery, a novella by John Pasfield. John finds himself in a room looking at Charles Dickens, who is seated, who is surrounded by characters from his books. Okay, that's from an 1843-44 drawing of Dickens, and then I drew the rest of it. As you can probably tell, there's two different styles in the drawing. Okay. Writer John Pasfield leaves his home, buys a coffee, and drives down to the shores of Lake Erie to perform a Christmas ritual, strolling along the beach at Port Maitland. It's something he's done for many years, but this year is different. This year, John suddenly finds himself in the writing room of famed Victorian novelist Charles Dickens, who sets out his new idea for a Christmas tale. Dickens invites John to watch rehearsals for the writing of the story, but as Dickens struggles through contentious negotiations with his amazingly independent characters, John wonders whether A Christmas Carol will ever be written. So it's 1843. Sorry, I got the date mixed up a bit there. And Dickens says, well, look, come along, watch me rehearse the characters I've created because I'm going to put them into a story, A Christmas Carol, and I will sort of guide you through that experience. Okay, so we all go through experiences that we don't immediately understand. In this novella, in Chapter 1, John, the main character, May, is sitting in his car by the lake on a cold December day near Christmas. He has come to perform what for him is a Christmas ritual, to throw a jagged stone in the lake and to take a smooth stone home with him. In between the two chapters of this ritual, Chapter 1 and Chapter 10 of the novella, he finds himself caught up in the whirl of the Charles Dickens experience of attempting to write his novella, A Christmas Carol. Now in Chapter 10, John tries to merge the imagery of his own life experience with the imagery that has been presented as the Dickens life experience. So as this novella, John and Dickens, A Christmas Mystery, ends, the meaning of the experience of all the chapters is still being considered by the main character as he goes on with the routines of his life. So we have a routine life, we have a strange, bizarre, not ordinary experience, and then we go on with the routines of our life, but we're still wondering what exactly happened there. Okay, let's read the story of Chapter 10, which is page 97 is where it starts. I say the story of Chapter 10 because I'm leaving out a lot of what I would call interpretive imagery or deepening imagery. I'm leaving a lot out. I'm only reading the story of Chapter 10. Okay. Warming up in the car. Fire up the engine and turn on the heater once in a while. Polishing my chapter with the window open a crack. So John takes a chapter of a novel along and works on it in the car. Wouldn't want to suffocate and die in my car. You wouldn't want to run your car with your windows closed. Now for the second half of the ritual. Ritual back and ritual forward. Ritual up and ritual down. Every square is a circle. Every circle is a square. Every so often, each part of the wheel will touch the ground. So I'll leave out a page of interpretive or deepening imagery and go to this. I take a break and walk the beach and look for a nice smooth stone. Drifts of snow and chunks of ice today, but plenty of open sand. I take off my glove and pick up a small, smooth stone. I test the smoothness with my fingers and put it in the pocket of my coat. Put my glove back on and look out at the water for a while. December and Dickens. Dickens and December. What do Dickens and December mean to me? Leaving out another page of imagery, we have I get in the car and fire up the engine, turn up the heater and drive away. The tires crunch over the stones in the parking lot. out on the road and into a half-hour drive back home. In time, under the water, that jagged stone will be worn smooth by the action of the sand and the ebb and the flow. It'll be both the same and not the same stone. Okay, leaving out some more imagery, we go to, yes, the sun is up and shining. I left home at the break of dawn. Love the sun as it sparkles and dances on the clean, white snow. December and Dickens. Dickens in December. Thoughts of Dickens in December just won't go away. Dickens sleeps and keeps his secrets. No one has ever solved the mystery of Edwin Drood. The second part of the ritual, just as important as the first, much easier at Easter and Thanksgiving, or one or two special birthdays throughout the year. No trouble today on the windswept beach to find a smooth stone. Okay, leaving out another page of imagery. Snow in the fields and the roads are clear. The perfect winter weather. Ice in patches along the river with stretches bare. Not a very cold December after all. There's just one lingering question. What would have happened to the Dickens characters if he hadn't written that book and we didn't have A Christmas Carol to read? Well, the middle 8 chapters show you how difficult it is for Dickens to get his characters to agree to let him write about them. But more of that when you read the novella. Okay, leaving out another page of imagery, we come to the last image unit of the novella. Snow on the fields, but the roads are bare. Milder weather all over the earth these days, so they say. In the old days, we would skate from October to March. I'll toss the smooth stone into our pond when I get home. My wife will be working on the decorating all day. She works on one room at a time. The house is completely transformed at Christmas time. I'll carry the empty boxes back downstairs and put them on their shelves. And come the end of January, she'll change the whole house back again. Then comes Valentine's and Easter and Thanksgiving. The enchantment of the seasons as the year goes on. And that's the end of the novella, reference to my wife there. Here's a note that I wrote. There's a book that I first read when I was in grade 13. There were 5 years of high school in Ontario, Canada, when I was a student. I was 18 years old that year, and a novel affected me in ways that I didn't understand for about 50 more years. That novel is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. So I read it when I was 18, and 50 years later, I had an idea about it that told me something about all of literature. She only wrote one novel that we know of, and that novel was a literary work of high achievement. She had an insight into the workings of the greatest works of literary art that allowed her to include two elements in that novel. Number one, a realistic surface, the story of a small group of characters who interact quite dramatically according to the issues of their personalities, their families, and the societies of their times. And number two, the second element, a layer of deepening imagery, a pattern of images which encourages the reader to see much more thematically in that story than would be apparent if the story was written completely in prose, as were so many of the novels of her time. So, a realistic story and a layer of deepening interpretive imagery. Those who misunderstood what she was doing complained that the imagery of the novel was not consistently realistic. They were living in an age of unrelenting prose, and the idea that a serious work of art could and should include a layer of interpretive imagery was entirely foreign to them. They had Shakespeare on their shelves and even praised him, but they had no idea of the techniques by which he told his tales. So the question remains, a two-part question. Number one, had Emily Bronte lived on, would she have succumbed to, have agreed with the shallow and foolish criticism of her novel by even such as her sister Charlotte Bronte, and become one of those who was not able to write a series of novels which attain the level of serious literature? Or, number two, which she had shrugged off the shallow criticism and gone ahead with a program of playing variations on the form, which is the form of all of the serious works of literature of the past, of all the literature which we have admitted to the human life experience canon. Well, we'll never know because she died after writing her first novel. But she seems to have seen, in my opinion, something about serious literature when she was writing her first novel, which many other writers and many critics, many reviewers, do not see. Once again, this is my novella, John and Dickens, A Christmas Mystery. John standing in the room with Dickens, surrounded by his characters, novella by John Passfield. It's on Amazon if you want more information. It's at my publisher's website, roxmillspress.com. It's also on my website, not the novella, but 2 books about the novella, johnpassfield.ca, JOHNPASSFIELD.ca. A planning notebook in which I plan and write the novella, and a journal in which I reflect on the novella once I have a rough draft. So have a look at that if you're interested in writing and other related concerns, such as human thinking, I guess I should say. Lastly, thank you for watching this video.